sure is a chilly day here in Watertown, but we are set for a hot conference matchup in the Bazar East Conference between the Stoughton Vikings and the Watertown Goslings. Hello again, everybody. For this Watertown TV production, I am Ethan Buss, coming to you live from Watertown High School. We are excited for this one as the Stoughton Vikings come in here with a 12-4 overall record, 8-3 in conference play, or excuse me, 6-3 in conference play, taking on the 2-6 team. We're going to send it down to the PA announcer in just a moment as Reed Ledoux and the Watertown Pep Band will get us set up for the national anthem here shortly.
Remove your hats and join the Watertown High School Pep Band under the direction of Mr. Reed Ledoux in singing our national anthem.
All right, so as we get ready for action here tonight, we are going to get the starting lineups. And once again, we will send it down to the PA announcer for the starting five for both teams.
Now let's meet tonight's starters. First for Stoughton, starting a 6'2" junior, number 0, Sawyer Shipper. Starting a 6'3" sophomore, number 1, Jay Johnson. Starting a 6'2" junior, number 3, Ty Fernholz. Starting a 5'11" senior, number 4, Mason Marchi. And starting a 6'5" sophomore, number 12, Hunter Sullivan. And coach of Stoughton is Nolan Myers. Assistants are Chris Schultz and Chris Vale, Reed Gibbs, and Max Fernholz. And now the starters for the Watertown Goslings. 25, 6' sophomore, number 1, Brad Schweifel. And on the 5'11" sophomore, number 3, Jake Hurtgen. And on the 5'11" sophomore, number 5, Calvin Hurtgen. And forward a 6'2" junior, number 22, Hudson Roderick. And in center, a 6'8" senior, number 24, Ethan Johnson. And those Watertown is Chad Hayes.
All right, so as the noise chimes us in here, we'll get set for the tip-off here. Again, the starting lineup for the visiting Stoughton Vikings tonight. Starting at guard number 0, Sawyer Shipper. At guard number 1, Jay Johnson. At guard number 3, Ty Fernholz. At guard number 4, Mason Margie. And at forward, number 12, Carter Sullivan, who will do the jump ball. Meanwhile, for the home Goslings, it'll be number 1, guard Brett Schweifel, as the tip-off is won by Stoughton. Number 3, Jake Hurtgen. Number 5, Calvin Hurtgen. Number 22, Hudson Frederick, and number 24, Ethan Johnson, the center, rounding things out for the Goslings here tonight. Driving and shooting is Sawyer Shipper as he puts it off the glass and in. And it's an early start here for the Vikings as they go up 2-0. Stoughton has come in, winning 4 of their last 5. That one's stolen away by Shipper, and he's going to make the basket. Stoughton, as we said, 12-4 overall, 6-3 in conference play. They are currently second in the Badger East Conference, right behind Wanakee, who stands at a perfect 8-0 in conference play and 13-4 overall. Well, the Goslings trying to get something going here in the early on. Frederick thought about taking a shot. Instead, he gets it over to Jake Hurchin. Hurchin inside Ethan Johnson, who finds Frederick off the glass, no good. Johnson gets the rebound, and he's fouled on his way up, and he will go to the line. That foul is against Carter Sullivan, his team's first, as Ethan Johnson will shoot his first. Shot is good for Johnson. The Goslings tonight coached by Chad Hayes in his first season as the head coach. And Johnson goes 1 of 2 from the line, and now we get a whistle, and a foul is going to be called on Jake Hurchin. That's his first. And the team's first. Excuse me, they actually get Calvin Hurchin on the foul, not Jake Hurchin. Meanwhile, Stoughton coached tonight by Nolan Weber. And another open basket for Carter Sullivan, and it is 6-1 in favor of the Vikings. And this game is starting very similar to the women's game last night in favor of the road team early on. Hudson Frederick all the way across to Calvin Hurchin. Calvin has really come on here in the second half of the season. He's played really well lately. His brother Jake Hurchin lost the basketball that time, and now Stoughton will bring it back the other way. Deep 3 on the way is ringing in and out for Ty Fairholes. And it's going to remain with Stoughton as Watertown couldn't corral it here on this end. Ty Fernholz, is the leading scorer for the Vikings. He averages 19.8 per game. He's taken another 3 here. This one skips off the mark, and it's out of bounds, and we'll head back to the Goslings. So Fernholz will certainly be one to watch here tonight. Number 3 for Stoughton. Well, Brett Schwefel, who has had the hot hand lately, we'll talk about that in a moment, brings up the court here for the Goslings. Calvin Hurchin, bouncer over to Jake Hurchin. And now Jake will take the 3, and he nails it. And just like that, it's a one-possession game, and it's 6-4 with 15:35 left here in the first half. Sawyer Shipper will bring it up the court for the Vikings. Johnson back to Shipper, and now back over to Fernholz, and his shot is off. Rebound goes to Sawyer Shipper. A battle for the ball. Shipper comes up with it. And the Vikings retain possession, and a 3 on the way from Jay Johnson is off the mark. Rebound goes to Hudson Frederick, and back the other way come the Goslings as Jake Hurchin will lob it over to Brett Schwefel. Now Ethan Johnson, the 7-footer, the senior center. They get it on to him, and a foul is going to be called. I believe they're going to get Shipper on this one. Either that or they'll get... They do get Shipper for the bump. I thought maybe it could be a push on the back end as well by Sullivan, but they do call Shipper for the foul. The inbounds pass goes all the way across half court, and bringing it up is Jake Hurchin. Hudson Frederick, who got up to a really good start earlier on in the season. He's been a little quiet since, but obviously still a big factor. Boy, a dangerous pass there. Schwefel comes down with it. And the Goslings able to maintain possession here, luckily. Calvin Hurchin hands it off to Jake. Over to Ethan Johnson, who lays it off the glass. And in. Johnson officially stands at 6'8". And he is a dominant force underneath for the Goslings. second on the team in scoring with 9.5 points per game. 3 on the way on this end. That is Mason Margie, and that's off the mark. Rebound goes to Brett Schwefel, and you hear Chad Hayes, the head coach, barking out the play as Schwefel goes to the corner and now floats it, and he's got it. The sophomore guard, Brett Schwefel, making his presence known here early, and it gives the Goslings an 8-6 lead. Margie drives, kicks it out to Johnson. Johnson over to Shipper. Waiting for things to develop here. Bounce pass inside to Ty Fernholz. He's going to drive and now kicks it out. Margie is open for 3. Bodies are hitting the floor everywhere, and cleaning it up is Ty Fernholz. That is his first basket of the night, and he ties the game at 8 apiece. Meanwhile, Brett Schwefel brings it up here for the Goslings, and that pass is stolen away. And Jay Johnson is going to, whoa, and block from behind. Ethan Johnson swatted it out of there, my goodness, and now he's open, and he's got it. And a timeout called for Stoughton as this Watertown crowd is fired up here early on as the Goslings rallying behind their senior center, Ethan Johnson, who's now got 5 points of the 10 for the Goslings here in the early going. We were talking about Brett Schwefel's emergence as of late. I mean, he has just been fantastic. In fact, he is now leading the team in scoring, averaging 19.9 per game, and that is incredible. You just love to see him come on. We talked about the Goslings. Listen, 2-16 overall record, 0-9 in conference play. I get that, but if you watch this team play, you see how hard they fight every single night that they're playing. Once this team, they're young, and once they figure it out, and they get some consistency, they're going to be a really, really strong team in the near future here. And I think everybody can see that when they play them. Cameron Kranz has checked in the game for the first time for the Goslings. Also coming in is LaShawn Brown, and now a turnover called. And the Goslings will get the basketball here. Schwefel to the right corner. Pass over to Frederick, now back to Schwefel. They bounce it inside to Ethan Johnson. Now back out to Hudson Frederick. Frederick hands it off to Schwefel. Schwefel again, looking corner for Kranz. Now over to Schwefel again. And a hard play and a foul is going to be called on Jacob Hibner, who enters the game. That's his first, the team's third. Hibner, the freshman, getting the start, not the start rather, but getting some time here on the varsity team. We got another foul called. A push is going to be called. I believe it's going to go against Ty Fernholz. That's his first, team's fourth. So Elliot Rothley will check in, number 13, and number 15, Braden Smith, also checking in for the first time for the Goslings. That baseline pass was thrown away by Kranz, and it's a turnover, and that is a worst type of turnover right there when you just throw it away on an inbounds pass. So the Goslings hanging on to that 2-point lead as Sawyer Shipper brought it up the court here for the Vikings. Shipper over to Brown. Brown passes it off. Here's Fernholz for 3. Off the mark, rebound goes to Braden Schmidt. And back the other way come the Goslings as it will be Brett Schwefel taking it across half court and slowing things down a bit. Schwefel dribbling around over to Rothley, who checks in for the first time. And a travel is going to be called on Kranz. And the Vikings will get the ball. We have a substitution here as Mason Margie will check back in for Sawyer Shipper. So with 11:50 left in the first half, it's a 10-8 Goslings lead. They have, again, look like it's going to be a good start for the Vikings, but the Goslings close the gap and eventually took the lead. That is going to be a tie-up called and possession arrow in favor of Watertown. Well, Calvin Hurchin, number 5, will check in for his brother, Jake Hurchin. And now the Goslings will get the ball with a 10-8 lead with 11:35 left to play here in the first half. Schwefel being guarded closely by LaShawn Brown. Schwefel hit the deck. They call a foul. And I believe they're going to get Brown. I tell you what, from up here, there didn't look like there was much on that foul, and you could see Brown reacting to that as if he didn't foul him at all. And I think that he may be right, but nonetheless, turnover anyway for Stoughton, and laying it off the glass and in is Jacob Hibner. And he ties this game with 11:10 left here in the first half. Schwefel over to Calvin Hurchin. Hurchin over to Schmidt, and we got to travel. He walked with it. Ethan Johnson will check in, and he will get Elliot Wraithley here. Johnson off to a hot start. He's got 5 early points for the Goslings. Chad Hayes realizing that here and subbing in his star player. Dribbling around, and the shot is up and in. And Ty Fernholz, right place, right time again. He's got his second bucket underneath the hoop, and it's 12-10. And that gives Fernholz 4 points and another turnover. Right now, this Stoughton team is playing extremely well, and a 3 from Fernholz. All of a sudden, it's a 5-point lead for the Vikings, as Fernholz nails the 3, and now Calvin Hurchin trying to answer. He can't, but the rebound by Kranz. And the Vikings are just swarming defensively right now, making it really hard on this Goslings offense. Ethan Johnson looking for help. All the way across the Schwefel in the corner. Calvin Hurchin for 3, got it. Hurchin's got 3 points, his first basket of the night, and it's 15-13. Not to be confused with his brother Jake, who also hit a 3 earlier on tonight. Each Hurchin brother with 3. Pass all the way across to Jacob Hibner. Hibner over to Ty Fernholz, who nails another 3. And Fernholz already has 10 points here in the first half. He averages per game 19.8. He's a shooter, no doubt about it. And it's going to be tough to keep him off the board no matter what. We got a whistle and a foul is going to be called on Mason Margie. That'll be his first, team 6th here in the first half.
Returning for the Goslings, number 3, Jake Hurchin. In Watertown, number 4, Reese Camera.
3 on the way from Calvin Hurchin. He nails another one. So the foul was actually officially called on Jacob Hibner there, not Mason Marjorie. Just correct my mistake. And before we can talk too long, it was a big 3 from Calvin Hurchin to bring it back within 2 for the Goslings. Margie over to Fernholz. Fernholz finds Schipper, who drives, and Ethan Johnson is making an impact tonight already on both sides of the court. He swats that one out of bounds. And the Goslings, again with a strong defensive play there. Margie will inbound it. Fernholz catch and shoot, and it's off the mark. Rebound, Jake Hurchin. Jake checks back in the game here. Ooh, almost had an over and back. And another steal. A turnover. Jay Johnson will lay it off the glass and in. Gosling's just giving up too many easy buckets right now on the turnovers. They got to clean that up here in this one as Camrath checking into the game. Reese Camrath, bounce passes stolen away, and now Fernholz does what he does, and he's fouled by Camrath on the play. Boy, Ty Fernholz already with 12 points here in the early going. And Reese Camrath committing the foul. Hunter Frederick will come in here for Reese Camrath, and Brett Schwefel will come in for Cameron Kranz. Meanwhile, going to the line and trying to make it a three-point play is Ty Fernholz, who has made things look so effortless here so far, and he's off the mark there. That was a surprising miss. 22-16, 8:11 to play. Vikings in the lead here. They go inside Ethan Johnson. That pass was too high from Jay Kirchen as he threw it away. LaShawn Brown is going to check in, and Ty Fernholz will get a break for the Vikings here. 15, LaShawn Brown checking in. Meanwhile, Sawyer Shipper will bring it up the court here for the Vikings with a 22-16 lead, 7:55 in the first half left. And what a play by LaShawn Brown. He took it to the basket and finished strong, and just like that, it's 24-16. And we get a timeout called by Chad Hayes. This is going to be a quick 30-second timeout. We talked about the impact of Ty Fernholz. It is felt here early. He's got 12 points of the 24 for the Vikings here in the early going. It has been a rough start for the Goslings offensively, however, but they do have 6 from Kelvin Hurchin, who had 2 threes, and 5 points from Ethan Johnson, their center, who has played extremely well. And so looking at things in a big perspective here, I mean, yes, it's an 8-point game, but the Goslings have made this close, and you know they're going to fight until the end. That's what this team does. That's what they've done all year. Even though the record may not show it, when you watch them play, you know that they are going to perform at their highest level. Jay Kirchen will bring it up for the Goslings after the 30-second timeout. Passes it over to Schwefel. Schwefel, bounce pass over to Calvin Hurchin. They get it inside. Ethan Johnson with 3 guys on him. Couldn't get the shot to go, and now he lost it out of bounds. Give him credit for trying to fight through the triple team underneath, but just could not quite hang on to the ball, and so the Vikings will get it back with an 8-point lead and 7:27 left in the first half. Shipper over to Brown. And now Brown kicks it back here as Margie gives it over to Shipper. Stoughton just doing a really good job dominating the offense, and now Brett Schwefel is going to be called for a foul here, a blocking foul. Couple of substitutions for Stoughton. In comes Ty Fernholz back in the game, and for the first time today, number 5, Mason Richter checking in. And Richter will bounce the ball over to Margie, and now Fernholz has it. See Carter Sullivan, big number 12, been there as well. That pass is almost out of bounds. The Goslings are going to come up with it somehow, my goodness. Frederick, pass over to Kelvin Hurchin, takes the 3. Oh, rings in and out. Frederick with the rebound, he lays it in, oh, and he can't get it to fall. Jake Hurchin, floater, no good. Frederick is fouled on the play. I was going to say, that one was pretty obvious. First foul on Margie. His first, team 7th over the limit, and so Frederick is going to go to the line and shoot. Of course, it was a shooting foul anyway, so it's 2 shots for Frederick anyway. Sawyer Shipper checks back in the game here for LaShawn Brown for the Vikings. And Frederick misses both shots from the line. And so the lead remains at 8. Sullivan hands it off to Margie. Driving, and now Sullivan open underneath the hoop. Sullivan's got 4 points in the early going. It's a 10-point Vikings lead with 6:11 left here in the first half. Schwefel takes the jumper off the mark when we got a whistle and an offensive foul and a turnover. Looks like they're going to get Ethan Johnson. His first, team's fourth. So Ben Harmon is checked in the game. Ben Harmon, number 14 for the Vikings. He stands at 6'6", tallest player on either team, except for Ethan Johnson, who is actually 6'8", so my apologies on that. But nonetheless, good size Stoughton has here and there. Going to use that to their advantage here, and they're going to have a couple more years with Herman as he's a junior here. That pass all the way across to Jay Johnson. Inside to Herman, he will kick it out, and now a three on the way for Fernholz is off the mark, and the rebound ends up in the hands of Mason Richter. Richter over to Johnson. Johnson and Fernholz, little miscommunication there on the screen. Now they get it right, and we get a foul called on Jake Kirchen. It's his first, the team's fifth here in the first half. But some of these fouls have been a little bit touch and go in the early going on both sides. Underneath to Jay Johnson, that's really good work by Braden Schmidt, who returned back to the game to knock that one away. As that ball dribbles down the court past the pep band area and almost to the exit doors. Jay Johnson is going to inbound here for the Stoughton Vikings. Shipper gets it on the inbound. Now Fernholz bounces it. Oh, what a pass. And Shipper's shot is off the mark. Rebound by Ben Herman. Underneath, Fernholz working against Shipper and, working against Schauer. And the shot is good for Ty Fernholz. Fernholz has 14 points. And a 12-point lead now for the Vikings. Braden Schmidt's going to be called for a travel, and it's a turnover and back the other way. As the Vikings will get possession here. Cameron Crowns will check back in the game for the Goslings. Jay Johnson inbounds to Sawyer Shipper. 28-16, 4:45 left here in the first half. Ben Harmon dribbling around. Again, they're trying to get it inside. They do to Harmon. Harmon stepping, spinning, trying to pivot around Ethan Johnson. That's easier said than done. And they have to work it back outside the perimeter once again. Harmon over to Johnson. Johnson dribbling, looking for some help here. He gets it over to Shipper. 4:13 left as Shipper will pass it over to Harmon. Harmon over to Jay Johnson. He's going to take it to the basket, now kick it out. Shipper across court. And again, they just continue to move on passing, but and that shot's off the mark. Rebound, Ethan Johnson. And back the other way come the Goslings. Kranz, oh man, pass was stolen away. Shipper all the way up court, but just too far. And a turnover. But the pep band area is busy tonight. Some substitutions here for both sides. Coming into the game for the Goslings is number 4, Reese Camrath. Mason Marjorie back in the game here for Stoughton. Jay Kirchen over to Reese Camrath. And now he gets it over to Braden Schmidt. Again, we talked about this young Goslings team, and they will battle, but they will have struggling times. How about that? Reese Camrath gets the basket to go. And he gets this game back within 10 with 3:14 left to play here in the first half. Sawyer Shipper passes it over to Margie, and now he gets it inside to Ben Harmon. What a basket. Harmon just using his 6'6" frame to play bully ball, underneath the hoop. Camrath hands it off to Crowns. Crowns over to Jake Hurchin, who floats it up. No good. Whistle and a foul will be called on the floor. I believe they're going to get Shipper. Actually called Ben Harmon for a push. And now Harmon will take a seat, and Cutter Sullivan will check back in for him. Meanwhile, Ethan Johnson's going to go to the line here and shoot two with 2:46 remaining. It's a 1-and-1 actually, because they're over the limit. That shot is off the mark, and so we'll get the ball back here with 2:40 left to play in the first half. Stoughton working it around the perimeter here. Shipper over to Margie. Now they bounce it inside. It is Fernholz. He kicks it out. Shipper for three. Shot is off the mark. And Ethan Johnson has it, and he'll bring it back for the Goslings. And he has to just pick it up and corral it. Passes outside. Reese Camrath for three. Off the mark. Rebound. Ethan Johnson, who dribbles. Passes. Hurchin is wide open for three. That shot is off the mark. And foul will be called. We'll see who they get. Could be a couple people here, but. They get Cameron Kranz. His first to team six. Boy, I don't know about that call, just from up here. Looked like they just got tangled up, and to me that would be a good no call. So I'm not sure about that. Of course, the Stoughton fans would not have been happy, but either way, they do call the foul, and with a 12-point lead, Stoughton with another chance here with 1:42 left to play in the first half. Sawyer Shipper nails the three, and it is now 33-18 in favor of the Vikings. Kranz over to Hurchin, and now over to Braden Schmidt. Braden Schmidt's pass, they go inside. Elliot Wraithley checking back in, and now a three on the way from Jake Hurchin is off. And the rebound will go to Carter Sullivan, and back the other way comes Stoughton. Here is another three from Shipper. He got it. And Sawyer Shipper, who is second on the team in scoring, averages 12.5 per game, already has 10 here in this one, and now he has a big steal, and back the other way come the Vikings. Jay Johnson kicks it to Ty Fernholz for three. And the Vikings can't miss. Fernholz has 17 early first half points. The pass inside stolen away again by Shipper. All of a sudden, Shipper and Fernholz are all over the court for the Vikings, and the Goslings just do not have an answer right now. A 21-point lead all of a sudden. This thing got out of hand in a hurry. Thanks to the three ball from Shipper and Fernholz. Speaking of Fernholz, he gets it inside. Oh my goodness. Throws it off the glass and in, and he's fouled. No idea how that basket went in, but it did. The foul goes against Braden Schmidt. His first, team seventh, and Ty Fernholz is going to try to make it a three-point play and try to get to 20 points here before the half even. And he does. Brett Schwefel, who just checked back in, brings it up the court for the Goslings rather. Braden Schmidt pass is off the fingertips of Reese Camrath, and that will do it for the first half. Goodness gracious, things just got out of hand here quickly in the second half as the Vikings, the Stoughton Vikings, lead the Watertown Goslings 42-18 at the half. Taking a look at the first half stats here, and it has been Ty Fernholz who has dominated the scoreboard. He's got 20 points already in the first half for the Stoughton Vikings. Meanwhile, Sawyer Shipper, well, he's been great on both ends of the court as well. He has 10 in the early going. They have 4 points from Carter Sullivan, 2 from LaShawn Brown, 2 from Ben Harmon, 2 from Jacob Hibner, and 2 from Jay Johnson to make up the 42 first half Stoughton points. An incredible first half for them. Meanwhile, for the Goslings, they have 18 points here in the first half. 6 of those points coming from Kelvin Hurchin, who nailed 2 threes. Ethan Johnson has 5. Jake Hurchin has 3. Brett Schwefel has 2, and Reese Kamrath has 2, and that makes up the 18 for the Vikings. It has been a rough go of things here for the Goslings. We'll have to see if they can turn things around when we come back after the halftime break. And I'm sure Reed Ledoux, and the Watertown Pep Band, they're just making their way back into the gym here, so I'm sure they will be performing for us here at the half. Again, it is the Vikings 42, the Goslings 18. We will be back in just a little bit. We are back here at Watertown High School as we are about to begin the second half of play between the Watertown Goslings and the Stoughton Vikings. Again, coming into this game, the Vikings were probably the favorite considering where everything is on the standings. Stoughton coming in with a 12-4 overall record, 6-3 in conference play. Watertown only 2-16 overall in the year, 0-9 in conference play. However, and I said it earlier in the broadcast, I'll say it now, when you watch the Goslings play, they play very hard and very tough basketball, and you know that within the next year or so, they could really start to click on all cylinders, just not at the moment, and they'll get there. They're a young team, a lot of juniors and a lot of seniors that graduated, that led this team for a long time, no longer here. And now, of course, you're in that turnover period when you have a lot of sophomores and juniors, and then, of course, the couple of seniors that you have left, are asked to take a much bigger role. So it's certainly interesting when we see the dynamic of this Goslings team, and they just continue to fight. They play hard every single night, and you got to give them credit for that. And that's why they're worth the watch. But they're going to have a long climb if they're going to get back into this one, no doubt about it. 42-18 at the half. And again, we talked about Ty Fernholz. What an effort he puts forth. And every time he gets the ball, you just think he's going to score. 20 points for Ty Fernholz here in the first half, and a dominant performance. Meanwhile, Another 10 points from Sawyer Shipper is not bad either for the Vikings. And now, as we get set for the second half, we'll have to see if the Goslings can close the gap as Reed Ledoux and the Watertown Pep Band wrap us up with the Watertown fight song. So Stoughton will begin with the basketball. Possession arrow favors them, so they will start with the ball to begin the second half again with a 42-18 lead. And here we go. Sawyer Shipper will bring it across half court here for the Vikings. He bounces it over to Jay Johnson, who gets it over to Ty Fernholz, and then all the way back across to Shipper. And again, they're just working their way around the perimeter here. Stepping and driving the paint is Fernholz. And a whistle, and it looks like an offensive foul is going to be called, and the Goslings are going to get the ball here. The foul goes against Ty Fernholz. That is his second and the team's first here in the second half. Brett Schwefel will bring it up the court here for the Goslings. The lob to Schwefel is knocked away by Fernholz, and back the other way come the Vikings. Johnson hands it off to Fernholz, who will take the three, and he got it. There's no cooling him down. He's got 23 points in this one. Dominant performance from Ty Fernholz in the early going. Brett Schwefel spinning, in trouble. Gets it away to Calvin Hurchin for three. That is going to ring out, and the rebound will go to Carter Sullivan. And back the other way come the Vikings. A rough start here in the second half for the Goslings as well. On the court for the Goslings, Jake Hurchin, number 3. Hudson Frederick, number 22. Calvin Hurchin, number 5. Ethan Johnson, number 24. As that ball is off the mark, and the rebound goes to Calvin Hurchin. And number 1, Brett Schwefel, and now Ethan Johnson for 3. That's off the mark, and Jay Johnson gets the rebound. And a 3 on the way, and it's Ty Fernholz at it again, and Chad Hayes is going to call a timeout here early. Boy, oh boy, there's no cooling him off right now. 26 points already in this one for Ty Fernholz. He could break my score sheet here. I don't know. I don't have enough points to mark for him, but nonetheless, wow, what a start for Fernholz here. And you see the score, it is 48-18. Not looking good here in the early going of the second half for the Goslings, and it's going to be an uphill climb, no doubt about it, but I know Watertown's got a lot to deal with. Again, we talked about their inexperience and trying to overcome that. They're still working on that. I believe they're going to get there. I really do. A year or two, I think this Gosling team is going to be really, really good. Don't bank me on that, but I just have a feeling it's going to happen. But we'll see. Hudson Frederick will inbound it here to Brett Schwefel. Brett Schwefel, who's been really good the past couple games, has been shut down tonight. He's only got 2 points. But I think he's going to be the guy in the very near future for the Goslings. Hudson Frederick passes it out to Schwefel for 3, and he nails it. Right on cue, as it's now 48-21. Jay Johnson hands it off to Ty Fernholz for 3. You just can't leave him open. Luckily, he misses. Carter Sullivan came down with the rebound. Fernholz tries to clean it up. They can't, and now the ball is going to go off of Watertown, I guess. And it's going to stay with the Vikings. Boy, that sure looked like It went off of Stoughton, but they say it went off Watertown, and so the Vikings will get the ball. Jay Johnson turns the corner and drives. He's met at the hoop by Ethan Johnson. And now on the ground is Carter Sullivan, and he has the wherewithal to kick it out to Mason Margie, and really good to reset the offense after what could have been a disaster. Ty Fernholz, that pass went south, and it's going to head out of bounds, and the Goslings will get it back here.
Vikings number 2, Jacob Hippner, number 14, Ben Harmon, and number 15, LaShawn Brown.
So Jacob Hibbner, number 2, checking back in for the Vikings. Number 15, LaShawn Brown, also checking back in, as well as number 14, Ben Harmon. Brett Schwefel will bring it up the court here for the Goslings. Schwefel calling for some help here. He bounces it over to Kelvin Hurchin. Kelvin over to Frederick, and now Schwefel driving. That ball is knocked up in the air and in the direction of Sawyer Shipper as he will come up with the rebound and will bring it up the court here for the Vikings. 14:35 left to play, 48-21. Driving is Fernholz. He is fouled on the play. That is going to be Kelvin Hurchin, who gets his second foul. First in the second half for the team. And now Ty Fernholz will shoot 2, a shooting foul there. Fernholz makes the first basket. He's got 27. That is not an error. 27 points. My goodness. And Fernholz goes 1 of 2, but LaShawn Brown cleans it up underneath the hoop. And it's now 51-21. A tough one on a chilly night here in Watertown for the Goslings. And Ethan Johnson puts one up and in. And Johnson's got 7 points for the Goslings. 51-23, 14:04 left to play. Hibbner's pass is a little wild there, but corralled nonetheless by Shipper. Hibbner looking for Shipper. We got a whistle, and a travel is going to be called.
In the game for Stoughton, number 4, Mason Margie. For Watertown, number 11, John Zietlow.
Nolan Weber did not like that call, but a travel call nonetheless. A couple of substitutions here. John Zietlow checking in for the first time, number 11 for the Goslings. Well, Mason Margie checking back in as well for the Vikings. Brett Schwefel on the wing. Pass over to Kelvin Hurchin. Kelvin bounces it over to Ethan Johnson, who's looking for help. He gives it to Schwefel. Brett Schwefel step back 3, and it rings in and out. And the rebound will go to Ben Harmon, and back the other way come the Vikings. Catch and shoot for 3 from Hibbner. That's off, but underneath is LaShawn Brown. He cleans it up, makes it 53-23 in favor of the Vikings. Schwefel dribbling, pass over to Jake Hurchin. He hands it off to Kelvin, and now back over to Jake. Schwefel thought about taking a shot. He dribbles inside, and a turnover. Sawyer Shipper is going to check back in. And Ty Fernholz with that impressive 27-point performance will take a seat. Meanwhile, Caleb Winkleman is going to check in the game for Brett Schwefel, who was a little banged up after that last fall, but he seems to be okay. Harmon looking for help, passes it over to Hibbner. They get it inside to Shipper, now back out to Margie. 3 on the way from Shipper is off the mark, rebound. Goes to Hibbner, and the Vikings with another offensive board. That has been a huge story. 3 on the way from Hibbner, this time is off, and Ethan Johnson comes down with the rebound. Boy, they needed a rebound there, and that is huge. Get this somewhat to try to chip away at this lead. It has not been easy, but Got to keep the Vikings off the board. First things first. Ethan Johnson has the ball knocked away. It goes off Ben Harmon. Calvin Hurchin will inbound here for the Goslings. He gets it into Ethan Johnson, and he finds Caleb Winkleman, who checked in for Brett Schwefel moments ago. Winkleman over to Hurchin. Hurchin passes it over to Winkleman, and now Winkleman will give it over to Jake Hurchin. Jake over to his brother Calvin, who almost lost the ball. Calvin over to Ethan Johnson, as Johnson's going to try to find his man. That ball got tipped around, and now a timeout called by Chad Hayes. They could not find anything offensively. They take a timeout with 11:33 left here in the second half. And they're just going to take a moment to try to reconvene here. Things just not going very well here for the Goslings. And this one, it's a 53-23 Vikings lead. We take a look at the stats. Again, 27 points from Ty Fernholz. He's had a fantastic game for the Vikings. Meanwhile, Sawyer Shipper also has 10 points for Stoughton. And they are just performing extremely well tonight. 7 points from Ethan Johnson in this one for the Goslings. 6 from Kelvin Hurchin. Make it 53-23. Again, I know the scoreboard doesn't look like it. I know the record doesn't look like it. This Goslings team, they will fight and they will battle in every game. Obviously tonight is just not their night. And sometimes that's going to happen, but the future looks bright. I would just say that for the Goslings. We'll see, but it looks bright. Meanwhile, we're going to get some changes here for the Goslings. Braden Schmidt checking back in for the Goslings, as well as Denzel Esquivel. He hasn't played in quite a while as he checks back in for the Goslings. For the first time, actually. And dribbling it in is Braden Schmidt. Braden will be around a while. He's only a sophomore as he gets the shot to go. Jay Johnson passes it back over to Hibner, and now Shipper inside, takes the jumper, it's off the mark. Hibner comes down with the rebound, kicks it out to Shipper for three. Sawyer Shipper has 13 points, and now Caleb Winkleman will bring it up the court for the Goslings. Winkleman over to Hurchin. He gets it over to Braden Schmidt. Schmidt over to Esquivel, and now back over to Winkleman. Yeah, just kind of working their way around the perimeter here. Jake Hurchin thought about a three, now passes it over to Winkleman. Esquivel almost lost the basketball, but he corrals it. Pass over to Winkleman. Winkleman back over to Esquivel. Pretty good defense here from the Vikings. You can hear their bench clapping. Braden Schmidt moving those elbows, trying to work his way inside. Now outside, Winkleman for three. Makes it 56-28 with 10:04 left to play in regulation. Harmon gets it inside, and a foul is going to be called here. John Zietlow called for the foul. Ben Goodall will get in the game here for the Goslings, number 10. Inbounds pass and catch, and another three. Ty Fernholz has 30 points in this one, and another shot for him. Meanwhile, the Goslings have almost nearly conceded as Esquivel throws up a shot, and he can't get it to go. Up the court they go again to Ty Fernholz, and that one's swatted out of bounds by Braden Schmidt.
For the Vikings, number 10, Malachi Sutton.
And it looks like finally the Vikings going to bring in some of their substitutions. Malachi Sutton checking in for the first time, number 10. He thought about taking a 3, now he'll just take a 2, and a foul called on the shot. I believe they're going to get Denzel Esquivel. That's his first, the team's third. And now Malachi Sutton will go to the line and shoot 2. First shot is off the mark. (59-28) in favor of the Vikings. Make that 60-28. As Malachi Sutton has a basket tonight from the free throw line. Denzel Esquivel turning the corner. Passes it over to Ben Goodell. Goodell passes it to Winkleman. How about that? Another 3 by Caleb Winkleman. Uh-oh, that ball is knocked in the air by Denzel Esquivel, playing good defense here for the Goslings. Carter Sullivan works it over to Mason Richter. And now Richter takes a 3, or excuse me, that is actually Ty Fernholz, who now has 33 points and has officially knocked off my score chart here, of course. Ethan Johnson passes it out to Denzel Esquivel. Esquivel over to Braden Schmidt, who tries to dribble in. Good work that time by Malachi Sutton, and a foul will be called on Sutton. His first, team second here in the second half. Meanwhile, we're going to get a timeout here. Chad Hayes calling a full timeout for the Goslings. And again, if you're just joining us, it has been a one-sided affair, really. The Goslings had a nice run early in the first half, but boy, that end of the first half really playing big now, as we saw the three-point basket just falling in for Stoughton, mainly by Ty Fernholz, who has 33 points tonight. He averages 19.8, and he is blowing that out of the water right now. He's just playing out of his mind. And of course, Sawyer Shipper has 13 points as well. He averages 12.5, so he's over his average also. Just a really good performance here from the Vikings. And for the Goslings, they just have not been able to stay in it. And unfortunately, that is playing out here in the second half. Again, we'll probably see a lot of the substitutions playing here in the final 8 minutes, 19 seconds.
For the Goslings, number 11, John Zietlow.
Esquivel gets it on the inbound from Ben Goodell. Esquivel underneath to Zietlow, who puts it up and in. The senior, John Zietlow, who doesn't play very much. Good to see him get a basket in here. A 30-point lead still for the Vikings, but that's a good basket there. And now 3 on the way from Mason Margie. And they just are not being stopped at all behind the three-point line. They are red hot. Sometimes nights like that will happen, and there's just nothing you can do as an opposing team. Esquivel dribbles around, passes it over to Ben Goodell. Goodell dribbles it around, passes it out. Esquivel takes the shot, and he got it. That was a 2 for Esquivel. He just had his feet inside the three-point line. Esquivel, the senior, again, doesn't get much playing time, so it's good to see him get a basket here. Carter Sullivan's shot is off the mark. Rebound goes to John Zelo. Boy, he's got to be careful there. You know, kicking out the leg like that can cause an offensive foul. Caleb Winkleman has already hit 2 threes in this one. Oh, thought about a third, changed his mind. They work it over to Denzel Esquivel. Now over to Ben Goodall. Goodall will bounce it inside, but we're going to get a whistle and a foul call for a hold. Looks like it's going to be against Carter Sullivan. That's his second, team's third. It's going to be a foul on the floor. So Jacob Hibner, number 2, checking back in for the Vikings, as well as number 14, Ben Harmon. Wow, no foul called there somehow, as Esquivel hit the ground pretty hard. Ball knocked away by Brown. It's going to stay on this end with the Goslings. Once again, Ben Goodall is going to inbound here. Gets it into Zelo, and a foul called on Mason Richter. That's going to be his first and the team's fourth here in the second half. Goodall to inbound yet again. He gets it into Winkleman. Caleb Winkleman spinning, and he gets the basket to go. Winkleman's got 8 points. He's played really well. And now a 3 on the way from Mason Richter is off the mark for Stoughton, and I think they're going to get an over the back foul here on John Zelo. His second, the team's fourth. Deep 3 on the way for Jacob Hibner. He got the lucky bounce, and can everybody agree with me now that that shot is just going in for Stoughton? I mean, that really feels like nothing is preventing it at this point. Esquivel over to Winkleman for 3, and he got it. Winkleman has 11 points in this 19-point game. And Hibner looking to get the bounce again. Doesn't work that time. 3 on the way from Winkleman again. That one's off the mark. Hey, why not? When you got the hot hand, you might as well shoot it. Well, Sean Brown passes it over to Malachi Sutton. Ben Harmon now with the basketball gives way to Jacob Hibner. Good tight defense from Esquivel. That ball swatted away by Ben Goodall and into the hands of Caleb Winkleman. Winkleman over to Ethan Johnson. Johnson dribbling in, passes it out. Winkleman turns, and shot is no good. Rebound, Ben Harmon, and a foul will be called underneath the basket. Foul is going to go against John Zelo. That's his third. Team's fifth. Karsten Hurchin, who has checked in. Karsten was just playing a little bit ago in the JV game, so give him some credit. He's playing a doubleheader tonight as he checks in for the first time here in the varsity game. Shot is up and in for LaShawn Brown. He's got 8 points. 71-40 in favor of the Vikings. Ben Goodall bounces to Ethan Johnson. That was a good-looking play from the Goslings. Again, Stoughton, another dominant performance here. In this one, they will head to 13-4 on the year, 7-3 in conference play after this game. 3:49 left in regulation. Sutton for three. Off the mark. Rebound goes to Richter. Now he kicks it out to LaShawn Brown for three. But the rebound goes to Ben Goodall, and here come the Goslings. Goodall passes it over to Ethan Johnson. Johnson over to Elliot Wraithley. And now a three from Karsten Hurchin as that one rings in and out and into the hands of LaShawn Brown. We got a whistle, and we're going to get a timeout called by Stoughton with 3:20 left to play in regulation. It is 71-42.
Full timeout, Stoughton.
Again, the big story is the 33 points on the night by Ty Fernholz. He's played a great game. Meanwhile, of course, 13 from Sawyer Shipper has not hurt this Stoughton team at all. But hey, second half, give credit, Caleb Winkleman with 11 second half points for the Goslings. Ethan Johnson hits 9 points tonight. 6 for Calvin Hurchin and 5 for Brett Schwefel. I'll give a little tip of the cap here to Karsten Hurchin, who played earlier in the JV game, and here he is again playing in the varsity game. How about that? That's pretty impressive. Stoughton's JV team was victorious earlier as well over the Goslings JV team. Of course, there are certain players who suit up for both JV and varsity, and usually they don't play in the varsity, but now that's what we see here. Caleb Winkleman is going to return for the Goslings. Meanwhile, this is going to be Malachi Sutton bringing it up the court for the Vikings. LaShawn Brown, my goodness.
LaShawn Brown.
He's only a sophomore. I think he's going to be good too, judging by what we've seen from him tonight. Denzel Esquivel for three. Bounces off the mark. Rebound will go to Mason Richter, and the Vikings will attempt to bring it back up. Good defense by Ben Goodall. Pass over to Braylon Kane, who checks in. And baseline is Mason Richter, and a turnover. John Zietlow is going to check in here for Karsten Hurchin. Again, we talked about the youth of this Goslings team, and Coach Chad Hayes, he's just trying to plug the right pieces. He did mention it at the end of the first game this year, how the youth definitely showed. Denzel Esquivel hitting the three. He's got 5 points, all in the second half. He's played pretty good ball here tonight for the Goslings. Again, the conceding white flag was waved with almost 9 minutes left in the second half. That ball is off the mark. And now a three on the way, and that will hit the baseline as well, and a turnover. And the Goslings will get the ball back. Ben Goodall will bring up the court here for the Goslings. Goodall passes it, and he stepped on the baseline before he got the pass off to Ethan Johnson. So the Vikings will get it back. 1:50 left to play. 73-45 in favor of the visiting team here in the Stoughton Vikings. Sutton over to Richter. Richter passes it over to Carter Sullivan. Sullivan finds Sutton. And now Esquivel takes it away. Good defense from Esquivel. 1:22 left to play here in the regulation. Ben Goodall pass over to Esquivel. Bouncer inside to Ethan Johnson. Now back over to Esquivel. Over to Ben Goodall. 1:10 left to play. Goodall passing it over to Winkleman. And a timeout going to be called by Chad Hayes.
Full timeout.
It's a full timeout for the Goslings with 1:05 left to play here in regulation. So for the Goslings, they are going to drop to 0-10 in conference play. They will drop to 2-17 overall. And again, you look at the numbers tonight and even on the season, but I mean, this is a team that has battled all year long, so give them that much. But obviously tonight, outmatched by a better team. And give a lot of credit to Nolan Weber and the job he has done. Last year, Stoughton finished in 7th place in the conference out of 8 teams with a 9-14 overall record, 5-9 in conference play. This year, completely different ball game, 12-4 overall. 6-3 in conference play. They're about to be 13-4 overall and 7-3 in conference play. So it's just heads and tails from last year compared to this year for the Vikings. So give the credit to Nolan Weber. Give the credit to the players for obviously working hard and performing well this season for the Vikings. And for the Goslings, again, it's all about that learning curve. And like we said, a couple of years, I think they'll be a good team as Esquivel dribbles around. Caleb Winkleman for 3. Winkleman's got 14 points, all in the second half. 51 seconds remain. Sutton will bounce it over to Carter Sullivan. They get it inside. Oh, and Johnson's going to be called for the foul. His second, and Braylon Kane is going to go to the line and get a chance to shoot 2 here. Kane misses the first shot. And Kane will make the second, 1 of 2 from the line. He gets a bucket. Ben Goodall has it stolen away by Malachi Sutton. Sutton's pass over to Richter and now over to Brown with 24 seconds left. Once again, Stoughton will move to 13-4 and 7-3 in conference play. Braylon Kane passes it out to Richter. They're just looking to probably dribble it out here with 4 seconds. Tie up, possession arrow in favor of Watertown. Only 1.4 seconds left. Esquivel will take a 3 off the mark, and that will do it. So the final score, Stoughton 74, Watertown 48. The Watertown boys will be back in action next week, Tuesday, as they will take on Wanakee for senior night. That'll be Tuesday, February 7th next week. And we look at the stats tonight. 33 points from Ty Fernholz. He was dominant. 13 from Sawyer Shipper. Again, just great performance from the Vikings all the way around. Meanwhile, Caleb Winkleman just comes in the second half and shoots the lights out. Finishes with 14 points. 9 points for Ethan Johnson. And the Goslings, again, just really could not get anything going here this evening, and unfortunately come up on the losing end. Well, we will be, again, I'm assuming, coming to you again next Tuesday, for sure, the 7th, but we'll keep the schedule open-minded, of course, for the women as well, and we'll see how things go there. Again, victorious tonight are the Stoughton Vikings as they now move to 13-4 overall, 7-3 in conference play. The Goslings drop to 2-17 overall and 0-10 in conference play. For Ethan Russ and Brandon Simmons for this Watertown TV production, saying good night and have a good weekend, everybody.